Welcome to In the Community with Tiffany K.
Thanks for joining us on In the Community this morning. I am Steve Waters in for Tiffany K. And this is going to be a very interesting morning with our special guest, Amy Hoffman, who is the director of Mary Washington Hospice. We're having a conversation behind the scenes before this program started. And it's kind of like lights are going off for me. Because when we talk about hospice, Amy, it's not a comfortable conversation.
No.
For anyone. And you've been doing this great work for a long time. Yep. Can you give me a little bit of resume here?
Yeah, sure. So I've been a nurse for 28 years. 26 years of my nursing career, I've been doing hospice. I started with case management, and I worked my way up to a supervisor, and now I'm the director of hospice. I've been a director for a little bit over a year now. Okay. But let me tell you something special about hospice. Is nobody goes into healthcare thinking, oh, I want to do hospice. You know, hospice is actually, it finds you. Like, it'll pick you out of a crowd and go, oh, this is going to be your niche in your healthcare career. This is what you're meant, this is your calling.
It's a calling.
Hospice. It really is.
Yeah. Let's define what hospice is. I know we have an event to talk about, and we're going to get there.
Yep.
We got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
We want to leave no stone unturned. But let's start with the very basic, because I think most of us, we know what hospice is. It's the end of days care for someone and helping them through it, helping their family. But if you, as an expert, and I will call you an expert with that resume and the years invested, tell me, what is hospice and what do we need to know to have a full understanding of what that means?
So hospice it's a decision that you make at the end of life, that you want to say, I want to die peacefully. I want to die at home, or wherever that home may be, whether it be in a skilled nursing, assisted living home, or sometimes even in the hospital. You've made that decision, and hospice comes in. We have a fantastic interdisciplinary group of nurses, social workers, chaplains, aides, volunteers, bereavement. And we all come in together to give you the care that is needed to stay in your home so you can die peacefully with your loved ones around you.
Okay. In a nutshell, that's what hospice means.
Yep.
And again, I think most of us listening this morning and hearing you talk, we kind of got that in the back of our head. Yeah. I do have a word to hit you with, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but is it palliative care?
Yes.
Now, what is that, and how does that, and does it differ from hospice? Because I hear that kicked around, but I don't really know what it means.
So palliative is actually kind of like your bridge to hospice. It's where when you're getting treatments, whether you're a cancer patient and you're getting chemo, or you're a heart patient, you're getting all these heart medications and treatments and echoes, and you finally make that decision to say, I need to figure out what I'm going to do, because I know I am going to die. And this is a personal decision, and palliative care comes in and they help you make who's going to make your decisions for you when you can no longer make the decisions yourself. Do you want to be a do not resuscitate? They kind of give you kind of like a roadmap to what kind of care you want at the end of life. And then that is the bridge eventually when you make that decision and the doctor says there's no longer any more treatment for you, and hospice is where you'll end up.
So palliative is still in the treatment phase.
Yes.
You're still able to make decisions, take action.
Yep.
When you go full on hospice, that now things have changed.
Yes.
Now you're at the mercy of others.
Yes, you are. And at yourself too, because sometimes there are family members that haven't agreed to this decision, but they are supporting you with, okay, this is what my mother has made this decision, and now I'm going to support her the best way I can. Right. And that's where hospice can come in and help. They can say, she's made this decision, and the social worker can come in and say, are you ready? Not ready? And kind of just help guide you and lead you. The nurses will come in and help with symptom management to make sure you don't have any pain. Your shortness of breath is controlled. You know, if you have wound care, they do your wound care. Social workers come in, support the family. They help with funeral planning. They help with just making sure everybody's on board and they feel well supported in this decision. Aides come in to help give that private duty, the care of bed baths. Chaplains come in to help support if there's any spiritual conflict or just some added support. Volunteers come in. They can sit with the patient at the end of life. It's called vigil care. They can just sit with the patient if the family has to go out and the patient can't no longer be left alone. They can come sit with the patient for a couple hours to run to the store or go to the doctor's office. So it just all depends on the care that's needed. After the patient dies, we have bereavement support, and they come in, make phone calls, and support you for 13 months after the death. So, and the reason why it's 13 months, because it's a year and 1 month, just to get you through that first year of birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, and just everything that would happen that that loved one isn't going to be there for that year.
Hearing you describe all that, see, now that's where we said it was going to be heavy at the opening, and it is.
Yeah.
It's a heavy subject. But hearing you talk about and outline all those ancillary fingers involved in this process, for most of us, we don't know that. We know there's probably a caregiver, and maybe they trade shifts with another caregiver, and they check on somebody and they help them along. But everything you just outlined is an entire operation in scope.
Yeah. It's a true support to the family, and that's what hospice is. It's support to the family, to the patient, to the caregivers, to make sure they have what they need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If there's a phone call in the middle of the night because somebody's fallen, we'll help either go out there and make a visit depending on what's going on, or call the non-emergency numbers to help get them back in the bed. If they're having pain, we instruct them on what to do. And
is all of this, whether it's embedded or, again, connective tissue, if you will, in and around the area, all this with Mary Washington Hospice, is this unique for Mary Washington?
Well, it is unique.
At the level of what you're describing?
Yeah, every hospice, and I'm just trying to say, is great in their own way. Mm-hmm. What makes Mary Washington Hospice unique is that we're not for profit here in the area, and we have a music therapist.
Wow.
And we have a massage therapist. We had an art therapist. We're actively looking for another art therapist, but we provide those services free to our families, to our patients, and I don't think there's any other hospice in the area that does that.
I don't want to get too far away from talking about an event, so I think let's talk a little bit about the event, then I want to come back and ask you maybe some common misconceptions about hospice, now that we have the lay of the land of what it is.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the Light Up a Life illumination event.
Yes.
I know this is going on Thursday, November 9th, 6 p.m.
Yes.
Take it from there and tell me what we need to know.
So this is a fundraising event for Mary Washington Hospice. It's actually for our therapist, our music therapist, massage therapist, and they're called our expressive therapies. And we've been doing this for 6 years. And we started out having them at, the Spotsylvania Town Center. Okay. And we've moved now to where they were virtual for a while because of COVID, so you couldn't have in person, so we did them virtually. Mm-hmm. And now this is the first year that we're back having it in person. We're actually doing it at Mary Washington in the Meditation Gardens. And it's really a fantastic event for you to remember a loved one by buying a luminaire.
So this is an important fundraiser
Yes.
as we talk about the free angle of the services that are provided. Somebody's got to pay for it. Right. It's right, even when it's free to someone who needs, there's still a bill that has to be paid.
Correct.
So this is an important fundraiser.
Yes, it's an important fundraiser to keep those services of expressive therapies able to go see patients and families in hospice.
Okay, and again, this is Mary Washington Hospital Meditation Garden. That's right on San Perry Boulevard.
Yep.
6 p.m. Thursday, November 9th. And we'll come back to this and we'll talk about links where you can get this information as we move on through this conversation. But can we talk a little bit about if there are, because walking into this interview today, coming into this conversation, I know I had misconceptions. I just didn't know much. Are there misconceptions? Is there something you could key on that you'd like to clear up for people?
There are a couple misconceptions. People think that as soon as you go on hospice, that's it. You're bound and you're going to die.
Yeah, you're done. That's exactly what I would think.
They think you're going to come on and a week later, that's it. Everybody signed you off. And
Final
that is
hours.
so not true. It's great to come onto hospice, but it's also great to get on hospice earlier so you can get the support that you need. And you can really prepare yourself if you're the one getting the hospice care, and your family and your caregivers. So it just gives you that extra added support that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Can you turn to your right, my left, and bring another special? I'm going to ask you a specific.
Yes.
Can you introduce who's sitting right next to you?
Anna Lewis. She is my community outreach manager.
Anna does not know I want to put her on the mic right now. But
That's
Anna,
good. That's good.
I see you sitting there nodding in agreement. And earlier, before we started our conversation, you were mentioning a very interesting point, which I think is important to note. We plan for other things in life, but we don't plan or think about hospice. Can you elaborate what you were saying just before we hit the air?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was sharing that as a mom, I really found it empowering that when I was pregnant, my doctors, my friends, my family, everyone really encouraged me to have a birth plan. What kind of music did I want playing in the hospital room? Did I want to deliver in a hospital? Did I want to have a home birth? Who did I want in the room with me? And it struck me that we put so much time and energy, rightfully so, into planning how we bring our babies into this world. But there is nothing done to prepare for the end of life. We don't have those conversations where we ask people, where do you want to be when you die? Where do you, if you can choose where you want to be, where is it? If you can choose who you want in the room with you, do you want to be by yourself? Do you want to have your entire family together? Do you want to be in your home or do you want to be in a hospital? And there are two inevitable things in this life, and that's birth and death. And we really do plan so much for one of them and not at all for the other.
That is brilliantly illustrated. As you were talking, I was thinking all the things in our daily existence that we plan for. Mm-hmm. I've already figured out what I'm having for lunch later today and what Netflix show I'm probably going to watch sometime after 3 o'clock. Yeah. True story. But on something as heavy and serious as those final chapters and where hospice comes into play, we don't think or plan. We just don't. And I'm sure part of it is we don't want to. Mm-hmm. It's coming to grips with our own mortality. Nobody wants to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? But it is a need. It is things we have to get in front of and we have to deal with it, which is why we're having this conversation this morning. Mm-hmm. Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but brilliantly illustrated.
I'm so glad you're here.
And explained, and I think there's great perspective in it.
Yeah.
I really, really do. And this is why we're having this conversation this morning. This is why we're bringing attention to the Light Up a Life Illumination event, Thursday, November 9th at 6 o'clock. And those funds that are raised, these go to providing the care, to keeping the program funded.
Yep, providing the care, keeping the program of expressive therapies funded so they can go out and give a massage or do music therapy. And I will say something on the night of Light Up a Life. Our music therapist has actually wrote a song that she's going to be playing that night. So we're pretty excited about the whole event, all in all.
It's a great event. Obviously, it is a necessary event. We need the help. So please, you can link there at WFLS.com, lightupalife.mwhc, Mary Washington Healthcare.com, also for more information. And we talk about hospice, we talk about planning, we talk about palliative care, and bereavement. Let's talk a bit about the bereavement team, because it's interesting when I hear all these things. I'm like, okay, I get that there are stages here, and we're kind of outlining some of those today. What is the order of stages, and if you could elaborate a bit on bereavement?
So bereavement, we have 2 people in our bereavement, but we also have bereavement counselors, not bereavement counselors, but bereavement volunteers that actually help support bereavement, because they send out mailings, they call, and there's, how do I say this? There's different levels of bereavement support. So there's high, medium, and low. Okay. And that's something the social workers report off when the patient dies. And that'll depend on, do they get a call at 1 month after death, 2 months after death, or 3 months after death? And they put out a bereavement newsletter that gets sent to, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of people it gets sent out quarterly to. And that just provides that extra support of people that may not want a phone call. Right. That they're getting some support of, okay, the holidays are coming up, and with the holidays coming up, how do you handle that?
Right.
How do you get through those holidays with your loved one not being here? So that's just a little bit on what they do, but they do hundreds of probably thousands of phone calls a year.
And the team, as you described them, from the caregivers to bereavement to everybody involved in what hospice is with Mary Washington, I sit back and I go, they're unsung heroes. We don't think about that work on a daily basis and until we see it. And personal note, I'm blessed enough. My parents are not getting any younger. Yeah. There will come a day, whether it's a parent or a brother or sister, friend, where you have to deal with this angle of life. But it sure is comforting to know that there are programs out there and available to help you through it.
Yes.
and how much work goes into this. If someone listening this morning says, hey, I'd like to get involved, and I don't know, and I hate to put you on the spot on this because I know there's the staff and such at Mary Washington, but if somebody wants to get involved and help support hospice, best way to go about it, what does one do?
They can always volunteer. We can use volunteers to work in the office. We can use volunteers to do care for the patient right in the home for vigil. And vigils are special volunteers that are trained to sit with the patient at the end of life, like they are pretty much actively dying at this point, and they sit there for several hours to give the family a break. Because, at the end of life, at those last hours, the family is like at the bedside constantly, like they're not leaving the bedside.
Right.
And this vigil volunteer comes in and just adds that extra layer of just love and support that's needed at that time, just to know somebody's here that understands what's going on.
Is there, Amy, required education or training for that?
There is training. Okay. It is eight hours?
Yeah,
about 8 hours.
It depends on what you do.
Yeah. But there's definitely training for volunteers. There's an application that needs to be filled out. But we have a great volunteer coordinator, Kathy, who helps with the training and gets those volunteers on board.
That's great. And again, people listening this morning may be motivated to help out. Yeah. And is there something you wish everybody knew about hospice? What's the number one positioning statement? Do you have one when you get it? Because I'm sure you're asked a zillion questions each day with regard to hospice in general or people's individual scenarios. We talk about stigmas a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's a harsh word. I don't know that I love to say, hey, there's a stigma to hospice, but there is. But I think the stigma is we don't want to talk about it.
Right.
It's not happy thoughts.
Yeah, it's not. And I think one of the stigmas is you don't need a referral for hospice care. Anybody can get hospice care. And that's something we've had big talks about through hospice is, how do we reach everybody? Some people don't go to the doctors. Then they end up going to the doctors and they found out they had stage 4 lung cancer, let's say. And what do they do now? There's really no treatment options. You can come to hospice and we'll help you with those symptoms, but you don't need a referral for that. Like, the healthcare system and insurances and everything, you got to have a referral for anything.
Anything, yes.
Most, probably 90% of insurances you do. But for hospice, you don't.
Interesting.
And we take you whether you have insurance or not. That
was my next question.
Yep.
I didn't want to ask it in case the answer is one I didn't want to hear. But that's the truth.
That's the truth.
Wow. That's exactly when I asked, is there one thing you wish everybody knew? Because I'm sitting here thinking there's got to be an insurance hiccup somewhere, whether you got to have it.
Sometimes there is, and a lot of times it's age because, Medicare is for, 65 and older.
Right.
And then, those Aetnas, Blue Cross and Blue Shields, because we take care of from children to adults, from babies to elderly. And sometimes those people don't have insurance, and that's okay too, because we will gladly take you. And that's, I think, being a nonprofit hospice in the area, I think that's what we really tend to just wrap our arms around.
I want to mention again the event. I want to do it often because we want it to be hugely successful. Light Up a Life. This is an event going on at Mary Washington Hospital Meditation Garden, Sam Perry Boulevard, 6 o'clock Thursday, November 9th. This is do we call it a celebration of life? Do we call it a fundraiser?
Yeah, it's a celebration of life. It's just something sweet and simple to just remember your loved one that has passed. And it is a fundraiser to help raise funds so we can keep our expressive therapies out, being able to see our patients.
And like you said, even when insurance doesn't step up to the plate, and we know sometimes they do not.
They do not.
That's where these kind of fundraisers are so important.
Yes.
And please come out and support the cause. More information available at lightupalife.mwhc.com. You can also link there at this station's website. Talking with Amy Hoffman, the director of Mary Washington Hospice. Did we cover a lot here? Do we need to add more? Is there something we're missing? And we have others in the room, so we'll open it up and see if anybody wants to add.
I'll ask Anna. Anna, do you think we missed anything?
You were brilliant earlier, Anna,
I know.
so
Come on,
don't
Anna.
let us down.
There's something great I want to talk about real quick, too.
Sure.
So we didn't bring up is we have a great veterans program that we do veterans pinning. And I think that's where I'm very, very proud, because when we notice that somebody has come on service, and let's say they've served at the Navy, we actually have a veterans pinning, and it's done by our volunteers, that they go and pin that patient and just thank them for their service. And I don't know, there's just something so special about that moment that, you know, I don't know, Anna can probably say more about it, but
Just kind of gets you.
it does. It really does.
And we've seen in the past where families have asked, requested a pinning, and they'll say, we don't really know a lot about his service. We don't know about his time when, in Vietnam or in World War II. But we know that he was so proud of that chapter of his life. Can we have a volunteer who is also a veteran come and pin? And the outcome of those ceremonies, to echo what Amy said, is just incredible. And it oftentimes will open up that individual to share stories that he or she has never shared with their family before. And we've walked away from it having families tell us, when you guys left, they shared details that, his or her husband or wife had never heard before.
Oh, wow.
And so for us, like Amy said, to be in that, to have that opportunity to create a moment for the family to learn something new that they might not have before their loved one passed away what greater gift could you have from your job?
Right.
So there are some huge rewards in hospice, and that, I think, is just one of the simplest, easiest, most beautiful ways that what we do.
I'm curious, Amy, with all your years of experience, I just want to know, how hard is this job? Because I look at you and I say, the word saint comes to mind. You've been doing this. And I'm not just blowing sunshine. You've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, at a high level. And you deal with this day in and day out. This is your job. My job is talking on the radio.
Yeah.
It doesn't carry the gravity of yours. I'm the first to admit it.
It's super rewarding in so many ways. And I see it rewarding not only personally, but I get rewarded every day when I listen to the stories from one of the nurses when they talk about their patient, or a social worker and what happened.
Well, I got to say, you're getting it done. You're doing yeoman's work. And as we said at the open, in a lot of ways, unsung angels, thankless work, but it is so very valuable. Thank you for everything you do, especially coming in here early this morning to share your knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
And we do, again, want to point everybody to the event. Thursday, November 9th, 6 o'clock in the evening, Mary Washington Hospital Meditation Garden. That's 1001 Sam Perry Boulevard, right here in Fredericksburg. lightupalife.mwhc.com. You can link there at this station's website. We hope to see everybody out there. Yeah. Thank you so much to both of you, and we will see you next time you come in on In the Community.
Thank you.
Thanks for adding to my otherwise complete education, because I know I'm not the only one that learned a lot this morning.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amy Hoffman, the director at Mary Washington Hospice, and Anna Lewis, community outreach manager. And a big thanks to you, of course, for listening this morning. And if there is something you need on the air, if you have a nonprofit or a cause that needs attention, please reach out, and maybe we can get you on In the Community soon. You can find us at this station's website, and we'll see you next week.